think it's time to blow this scene. Get everybody in the stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
That's X for you, man. Born ready.
tenure there, somehow walked into the opportunity to do the voice of Red. I remember Steven, the creative director of the department, was like, "Excuse me, Alexei, you have a very naturally sarcastic tone of voice. You'd be perfect." I'm like, "Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment."
Yeah, no, that is always good as a recruiter.
Yeah, right, right. So it was a lot of fun, and we had no budget, and we did everything we could. We did TikTok live streams. We posted stuff on all the socials. It was basically I took the plushie here that we had and just recorded with that. We ended up doing some commercials too, but it was a lot of fun. We like got our TikTok from like 100K to like 1 million subscribers in a couple months with no budget. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, that is the power of the brand. It's one of those things that you basically see lots of little kids wearing the t-shirts, watching the movies. Actually, the movies weren't bad. I mean, there at one point in COVID, I think the second Angry Birds movie was one of the like most watched things. But yeah, I also joined Rovio, I guess, around about the same time, maybe a little after Lex. I think you hired me, Lex. So it was definitely after. Yeah. So I was a game design director for the Stockholm studio, which included Angry Birds 2. And I was taking care of the designers there. And it was a very special time. I joined like 3 days before they shut down the entire studio for COVID. And I didn't see anyone for like 8 months, except on streams. So it was absolutely mad. I think at that point, Angry Birds had been running for what, like 8 years or something. Angry Birds 2, and yeah, just went along running that and trying to improve the game and also making more out of the franchise. And in total, I think it's one of the games that really defined the early mobile era. Right, it was one of those first ones taking advantage of the touchscreen back in the day. The Angry Birds like free version was massive. Everyone loved that, and then I think there was something with Angry Birds 1 that people got super pissed when we took it down from the store, right?
Oh yeah, and we basically had to kind of appease by doing a smaller version on the Apple Play Store, but it wasn't exactly the same as the first. Or Apple Arcade. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, Apple Arcade. I love Apple Arcade. It was literally their attempt to kill all gaming. They were like, if you pay a subscription, you get the best games with no in-app purchases or ads. And people are like, yeah maybe not.
Yeah, I see the quotes over there. Yeah.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I mean, I still have the theory that Apple in themselves and they despise gaming. And I think they despise anything that reminds them of Steve Wozniak, anything that's too fantasy, anything that's too much imagination. I stick by this, and I think that they basically prefer everyone to sort of wear, Patagonia hoodies and run on the beach with their Labradors, and they all take photos all the time, and they're just like living ideal lives and using the ever increasing amount of cameras on the phones. I mean, at some point, this is going to look like a fly, It's going to have so many cameras, there won't be any phone behind it. But yeah, it's good.
Well said.
Cool. But yeah, so we've got a few other people on the panel as well. If you'd like to introduce yourselves, that'd be pretty sweet.
I'll jump in here. It's Ofid here. Just normally behind the warp account, but for spaces and stuff, but on the personal one because I'm not a technical wizard in terms of running streams and stuff. So somebody else is running that here. I see we have. Just noticed there. We see we have Futoshi in the audience. Would that be Zen? Is due to be a speaker?
No, that's Zentoshi is Zentoshi. This is another rock. And essentially, we're also in the vein of throwing things. We're sending rocks. So as part of Warp, we are basically co-developing a game with Studio FOMO for a Bitcoin community called the Node Rocks. And it's really fun. You have loads of different ways to send rocks at your enemies. and a little bit of fun and games around that. But yeah, one thing I don't think anyone knows is that at one point there was going to be an Angry Birds RPG with an actual battle system and really beefed up characters. That was quite an amazing thing. And yeah, that was. I think Lex, you were there when that was going on, right? Angry Birds Legends.
Yeah, I was pretty excited about it, as a big RPG guy myself. I mean, wasn't the Stockholm studio was supposed to be the RPG studio in general?
That's exactly what happened. When you hired me to it, we were meant to branch out into a new world of Rovio RPGs. But the problem was, and I think this was indicative of a lot of things at the time, we were too nice. So when we used to do like UA tests, and this is very common in Web 2, you actually test the games versus your opponents, your sort of enemies. And you don't do this in Rovio. You basically test it against other Rovio games. And so what happened is every time you added the birds, the game would just get better. So every game was basically ending up having to add the birds. And that was kind of why it changed from an original IP RPG into an Angry Birds RPG, much to the chagrin of the team at the time, I think.
Right on.
But-
Yeah, and then it totally shifted. Got
Mhm.
like an original IP that you guys were gonna do with that, and then it just ended up being Bad Piggies, as I recall.
Yeah, no, that was essentially that game got canned after I think about a million or 2 million got spent on it. Small dev teams running for a very long time, and it all racks up. And then we actually started Bad Piggies 2, which is, if anyone's played the original Bad Piggies, it's kind of like one of those physics puzzles where you've got to get an egg from one side of an obstacle course to the other, but it's one of the pigs because they are incredibly fragile. So you make these kind of wacky vehicles and you get them from one side to the other to spike the birds or to run away with the birds. There was a lot of lore behind this. There was like a whole thing. You were on a journey. You accidentally, like admiring some other bad piggy, drove down a hill, smashed up the bad piggy's little village, and everyone thought you were as bad as the birds, so they chased you out of town, and then you were going to go on this epic adventure with your garage and everything. Suffice to say, Web3 gaming isn't the only one where games never make it. It's just you never see it, right? I mean, you must have seen this, Lex. Quite a few games never actually hit the light of day.
That's true, man. I mean, before our time, what Angry Birds was like game 52 that
Mhm.
Rovio team tried to kick off. I mean,
Yep.
yeah, mobile is just loves to throw out games trash. I mean, if the numbers aren't hitting, then yeah, bye.
And that's the crazy thing because they've since changed the rules on privacy. So you've got like the IDFA, I think it's called, where essentially you're no longer allowed to sort of cross promote unless someone specifically agrees to it, which meant that 20% of the entire industry took a haircut. And that's why we at Warp have decided Web3 is the way to go. And there are certain things that kind of push us in this direction. Part of it is all of the rules around currencies. So in the EU, you're actually going to have to show the monetary value of your in-game currency soon. And so that makes more sense then if you can actually cash your currency out as opposed to not. So it's definitely coming. But we do some sneaky tricks in Web2. I don't know if anyone knows this, but we tend to actually have fake companies we spin up to release the game. It's the opposite of Web3 build in public. This is just like build in secret. We will make a fake company, we will spin up the game, and we won't even refund the purchases. Like even Web3 games do this when they go down, they actually refund things. Imagine that. In Web2, we're just like, yeah, we only made like 500K from this, throw it away. And then everyone's just like, what happened? The game's gone, the company's gone. There's just a goodbye message saying thanks. And then we re-release the game on our own label. And you're like, what the fuck? And do we grandfather you over? Do we fuck? No, you start at the bottom and you have to grind your way up.
Yeah, didn't Rovio do that for the RPG, the original RPG?
Oh, yeah.
Forget what the company was called. The company. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's lots of fake companies that we spun up. Also, Supercell did it for their sort of Stardew Valley-ish
Mm,
Supercell Village Builder. I don't know if they ever came out with that.
is that Heyday?
No, it was the one that was quite a lot after that. I think it was made by one of the Chinese teams.
Cool.
But yeah, it's all good.
Man, you guys
So-
are sending me down such memory lanes. I've been thinking of all these games that I've been playing with like the Rovio franchise. I worked for Apple for like a very long time since the launch of iPhone. So I've seen them all. I've seen every single Rovio game that was ever created, from the first one to like the more advanced one. One that really stuck out to me and I enjoyed so much playing it was Angry Birds Epic. And that
yeah.
was so much fun. I felt
Oh,
like
that
such a RPG Super Mario
Yeah.
adventure, and you had to level up your character. You would drop like little feathers or like wearables. That was amazing. I think one of the best games that came out from Rovio's Foundry.
Yeah, there was definitely some fantastic ones. One that I was kind of partial to, but I think it was a little bit ahead of its time, was called Battle Bay. I don't know if you've ever seen this game, but this one was cool. It actually had full like fluid physics in the game. So there was like sea, and you had like a little boat that you could upgrade, and you go around in multiplayer, blowing each other up and blowing up towers and stuff like that. That was absolutely crazy. The team adored that game. The team spent, I think, $5,000 of their own money on in-app purchases in that game.
Yeah.
Insanity. That's insanity. Like in a Web3 company, people actually, I saw this recently on Timeline, that the Web2 development team was winning the prizes meant for the community and actually cashing them out. That's insanity.
That defeats the purpose, but hey. Like,
Oh, there we go. There's some Battle Bay. Yeah, this one was good. You would basically choose your loadout. Oh man, memories.
that was the Battle Studio too. So
Mhm.
a lot of people don't realize it, but like the Helsinki office had 2 studios technically in it, because they bought out, what was it, Raven something,
Mhm.
a tiny studio. It was like 10 people, and they ended up doing cool things like this. And then they worked on a 4X game for the longest time.
Oh dear.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That's crazy. And since all of that, like Rovio's actually been bought by Sega. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering if we're going to see any angry Sonics.
I'm still hoping. I was very loosely, but I was really trying to get Red into Smash Bros.
That
And
would have been
so-
amazing.
Yeah, and I remember talking with one of the directors at Rovio and like coming up with a game plan of how to do it and like how to find their game director, and we sent some things out but didn't go anywhere. But maybe now we could get Red in there. I think as I recall, like we got something back and they're like, we're not doing anything mobile related. I think like Nintendo was very anti-mobile. Their Super Mario Run didn't do well or something like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, Nintendo on mobile, they've basically never done their own release. They've always done it through a different company. They did a Mario Kart one that was just horrible with the amount of in-apps, and that was not a nice game to play. I think the closest you get to that is Pokemon, really, like on Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
But yeah, Niantic just got acquired by one of these huge studios. Was it Scopely? I think just bought Niantic. So yeah, that's going to be crazy. There's going to be a lot of in-app purchases and ads coming. Your Pokemon's going to be locked unless you watch a commercial.
Yeah.
I hate when they do that.
Yeah,
And you're
man.
right. It got bought by Scopely for 3.5 billion.
Mhm. That's not bad. That's not bad.
I mean, they're-
Considering,
Can't argue with how they're doing.
yeah, no, Scopely are doing absolutely crazy. I mean, I think I went and I looked at the entire total market cap of all Web3 gaming, and it's currently every single game, every single studio that's released numbers together is about 20 billion. And that puts us like as an industry $4 billion below EA Games. And $4 billion is also about the size of CD Projekt Red, which makes all of the Witcher games. And yeah, what is it? Cyberpunk 2077 as well. And they're probably more made more money than the entirety of Web3 gaming. It has been brutal the last few weeks. I don't know if you've seen it, Grimlinks or Paul. Lots of studio shutdowns. What's your take?
Well, the one that I've seen taking the biggest hit recently was Ubisoft and being bought out. And I mean, I don't know if it was their choices, but they weren't big on mobile. But their like recent franchise didn't pan out as they actually planned. They invested way too much money, and they tried to uh, do things that didn't resonate so much with the community. And usually, this is where you want to please the board of investors or like the board of director, and you're not listening to the players. And something that I've seen that good people do is listen to what the players want. That's how you
Yeah.
build a community. That's how you build passionate gamers. And it doesn't even matter on the graphics. Ideally, you see like these new like games that are coming out on Steam, and they are very low level graphics, but they have such entertaining gaming mechanics, like we see it on screen right now. It's just you need to concentrate on the fun side of things, not on like making it look cool and with the best graphics in the world. Because if people don't enjoy it, it's gonna get boring, and they're just gonna drop it, regardless of how cinematic it looks.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And some of the best games look like absolute trash compared to some of the top ones. And just goes to show, like, if you look at, say, the latest Dragon Quest release, I can't remember what the name of that one was. It had something Wolf or Dread Wolf or something along those lines.
Tail
The
Dark.
game, yeah, the game looks great, but they couldn't even do a puzzle in that game. The puzzle was literally like you get the thing and you can see the glowing place where you're meant to take it, like 5 steps away. And that's a puzzle. I remember back in the day, some of the game puzzles were absolutely fiendish. Did anyone ever play Metal Gear Solid and then have to actually swap the controller into a different port?
Yeah. Yeah, and there was no like meaningful internet back then to figure that out. Right? It was like the Psycho Mantis could like read your mind. Like how will we
Exactly.
know that? But I think that's the like we're talking about like nostalgia stuff like that. Like you're talking about like Web3. I'm not I don't know a ton about it yet, but what I find really captivating about it is like if I think back, like I own the original NES and I still have, my Super Mario Brothers 1 cartridge and I hold on to that dearly. But at the end of the day, like there are some collector's items that I could sell, but like my progress in the game is gone. And I forget who I heard say this, but the idea that creating a Web3 game and you start earning items and whatever in the game, you still own that if the game shuts down, right? So I could definitely see the potential of it in the future if I get the Sword of a Thousand Truths, and 20 years from now, people are, feeling nostalgic about it. It's like, well, I still have the sword. Maybe the game doesn't work anymore, but I still got that sword.
One of the interesting things, right, is that on-chain games, the idea of having an on-chain game means that since the whole server side is decentralized, and if you put it on a blockchain that's running, the game never dies. Doesn't matter if there's one player, 100 players, a million players, probably a million players would kill certain blockchains, but it will persist forever. So even if the game is kind of worthless, you can still go back and have that nostalgic kind of feeling. And I think there's a certain niche for that. But I mean, one of the difficulties we've had is I think there's not enough good game design into these games because a lot of them were just purely focused on the financialization of them before we had anything. Like if you know anything about games, like players themselves set the value for items. And some of the items you might think are super valuable are not because there's a better item or there's a different build. And so that's where I think the danger of Web3 game design is that you sort of set the prices, you set the rarities, and you hope that these things are going to be great, but you could be wrong. And that's where it all goes crazy. Yeah, I see Doug Hype is up on the stage. So let's bring up Doug and have a chat. How's it going, Doug? Looking handsome. Doug?
I had to drop that in there.
Wow. You had that ready.
Your guy, he sent us an invite. He sent us a request to speak, and now he's dumb.
Oh,
I don't-
man, Doug, maybe we have to cycle him back to listener.
Having trouble getting in on listening, even anonymously. So there might be some technical difficulties.
Well, I see Zantoshi in the audience. I sent him an invite. And back to what we were saying. I was looking at a couple of games, and I just remembered the name of one of these like really cool games
Hello.
that's been. Hey Zan, welcome
Hey.
to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Nice to meet you guys. Sorry for coming late. I had a kid issue. I had to put him to sleep, and it was very difficult. Sorry about that. I lost most of the conversation, so if anybody can help me catch up, or I don't know what's up.
Matt, you're muted.
Yeah, no,
Why Matt was
Matt-
silent.
Matt was just saying how much a fan he is of Apple Arcade. He just loves
yeah. No, man. Yeah, no, we were just shooting the shit about how games work and how essentially designing games in Web3, the benefits and the drawbacks of that. Like, if you're setting the price for all of the things before the game's out, you're probably going to be wrong because players, they're the ones who determine the market. And it's kind of funny to find so many free marketeers trying to do planned and controlled economies like communists. So, yeah, I just wanted to bring you up, Zentoshi, Bitcoin Maxi. With a very sexy node rock there.
Well, thanks for inviting me again, and just want to say that I'm really an alien to the gaming space, and I got introduced really recently to all this. This is really new to me. I mean, I've been playing games since I'm a kid or a teenager, I should say, but it's not like I've been part of this sector. I got caught up in this in this community of node rocks, and in the great unrug of this community, and all this happened from there on, and the game idea came kind of organically. We had this developer in the community who just said, why don't we just make a game out of this slogan that everybody is keep on just saying everywhere, send rocks. So it's funny how we met, actually, Matt. We we had no idea that this idea of a game would actually come to life. Thanks to you and Jason. I think it was Jason. Jason reached out first, I think, and it was like, that's actually a good idea. And I was like, really? Do you think it's a good idea for a game? He's like, oh yeah. And you guys, I mean, the community already defined so many cool ideas, and we had no idea what it would mean to develop a game. Like you guys showed us the way.
Thanks, man. And yeah, just to outline this, we're creating something in the spirit of Angry Birds, where you're throwing these rocks at your enemies. And maybe Zentoshi, you could just talk a little bit about the genesis of this and how the community came up with the idea and all the rest of it, because that's kind of a fun story.
Well, again, it was this slogan. Everybody was like, send rocks, because of a previous, I think, collection of the Node Monkeys, where the slogan was send nodes. And I think it was just a derivative of that collection, and people were like, well, send rocks. And it was funny because you could actually send rocks, but it was like, it was just a funny slogan. And then this developer said, why don't we send rocks? And he just reskinned Angry Birds very basic graphics, as if you would do a basic, initial sketch for a game design, I guess. And he just replaced like very few elements. And he said, whoever beat the node monkeys with sending the rock. So you had to take down this monkey, which was on the other side of the screen. And so everybody started playing it. And it was like, maybe we should take this more seriously. That was the initial, I think, spark of Sandbox as a game. And then there was like a few developers that kind of lit the way and say, this is how we should do it. We should make a game design document so we can kind of put all the ideas. And there's few people who came up with some crazy lores which keeps on changing and getting better, I guess. And that's when Jason was like, what the fuck are you guys doing? What is this? And I'm like, here's the game document, which I don't think it was like a professional game document, but it was very, very degen and really funny. I think whoever saw that game document was like, that's actually really funny. So that's how, we I think that's the reason why we did it in the first place, because it was really stupid. It was really funny and making sense. And I was like, okay, well, does it make sense, CENTS, maybe to actually do such a game? And people were like, yeah, maybe, let's try it out.
Exactly. And I think we can actually see as a preview, like a little trailer that we had done for this. Let's see if we can get this up here. And yeah, I just saw someone else has joined. We'll see an intro as well while I'm navigating the millions of things to send.
Send rocks.
Yeah.
I think you're referring to me, but I'm just enjoying the conversation, here to support, I believe, what you're doing, Matt. Obviously, I've seen you around all the different gaming spaces, as well as just the general, Web3, and I love what you're doing. What's crazy? I think this is the first time, because I took a little peek on the video, the live stream, and I'm just like, bro, the man is just as good looking as he is, as his voice carries, and I'm impressed. So it's nice to see that things match. It's always fun to see when they don't match, because obviously I'm not here to judge, but it's funnier even to see your face again. And no, I just a pleasure. I'm head of community over at DLab Games, but I'm also an advisor with Andromeda, and so I'm sure you're somewhat familiar with both. And for me, anything that we can talk about, I'm always happy to contribute. I'm more to listen. I was actually listening to your take with Angry Birds and what you've been showing, and so anything I can help contribute and add to the conversation, I will. But yeah, that's who I am, and glad to be here and here to support what you guys are doing at Warpcast, because obviously there's a lot of value, and you're definitely one of the thought leaders in the space, because it's not so much of this is so extractive, but you guys have been always adding value after value after value in terms of your commentary, as well as what you guys have been building behind the scenes.
Thanks so much for that. And yeah, it's been a crazy journey with Warp as well. This all came together in, I think it was September, Paul, right? I got this on a space with Jason and Paul, and we just had this sort of conversation ranting about how bad everything was in Web3, how everything was doomed to failure. And then at some point, Jason and I said, we should merge around about the same time. And 3 days later, I was actually in Greece. And in Athens, we sat there for like 3 days solid and just whiteboarded everything on this massive table and came up with what is now Warp Chain, which is crazy because it's only been since then. And now we have multiple partners. We've got some of the biggest in the space. We've got a node sale upcoming. We've got like crazy shit being built. We've got the InfraBiddle grant from Avalanche. We've got like lots of support out there. Been to GDC, been to Singapore, been to London on this trip, been to Denver as well. We got like everything's coming together. Like we've even got huge OTC deals for the token in off. And yeah, we're going to create essentially a space for gamers to actually win properly, because the games that we put through will be tested. We'll use the same processes that Lex is familiar and everyone in Web2 is familiar to make sure those games hit the number, make sure you actually have demand for your token, and then we launch it out. And yeah, talking to Handsome, I see we have Doug now up on stream, looking sexy with his Channel 9 news.
Oh, can you hear me?
Doug, we've muted the stream. You have to put the sound on X.
I have to talk here.
Yeah,
Perfect.
you do. There we go.
I'm talking on a phone, but I'm on a screen on the internet.
We're all doing that. Yeah.
Live
And
and
it's a
chat.
bit of an echo.
Please
Yeah,
mute
it's-
the
it's-
tab.
I feel like this is built
2025,
like this
Doug.
just because of Matt's ego. He's very confident, I think overconfident. He talks about how everything he does is the best and the greatest. And now he wants me to jump through hoops just to come on the show. And I respect that though. You know, I live my life like a karate master, and I want to be challenged.
Yeah, and I'll challenge you to mute your tab for the stream, and then you'll get less echo.
That's very smart. Okay, now I have to put in my Bluetooth speaker. Now I feel technologically up to date. Thank you, man.
There we go. No, this is not my idea. Grim is the master of this. He's the master of the streaming. But yeah, Doug, why don't you introduce yourself to the panel, and especially Lex, who's never seen your majesty in person.
Look, okay, so I'm going to show you my professional mastery. I'm going to look at the camera and talk to you guys while I talk on my phone to those people and communicate to all of you and all of humanity at the same time. My name is Doug Hype. I currently am in the Channel 9 news studio. It makes no sense, but let me explain it to you. I'm what you call a content creator or an influencer. And what I do is pretend to know a lot of things, pretend to be really attractive, wealthy, successful, intelligent, connected, and experienced. And all of you have fallen for it. You've fallen into my trap. And now I have my claws in you, and you can't get away, and you have to listen to everything I say. And what I really try to do is hang out with the community and just live my life and do all the things I love to do and just purely be myself, and with barely any filter. People ask all the time, Doug, are you making characters? Is this really you? The answer is nobody knows. I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. Who knows? Who knows what's happening? But what I do know is we're having a lot of fun. And we're naturally always going to go towards the things we value, the things we care about. If you care about community gaming, making friends, then we're all going to make it, and it's going to be fantastic.
I second that, Doug. And it's great to have you here up on stream. We're currently talking about Angry Birds 2, and I can see there's a Russian version of Angry Birds up on screen. Or is that? Yeah, no, there we go. But it's quite crazy. It's one of the games that has actually, I think everyone kind of knows it from the early days of mobile. It's one of those things that's kind of enduring. And I think this is the thing that we're searching for in Web3. So far, we've got Axie, but we need something that is fun, that basically everyone can get behind. And that's what we're looking for. That if you know any games out there,
Send rocks.
yeah, send them this way. And I think that's what we want to do, is just bring the fun back into games and take away some of this poison that's going around the space at the moment. There's so many people having fights about, KOLs are overpaid, or these are not working. Basically, people are running out of money because they make crap games. As Lex was saying earlier, Angry Birds was the 52nd Rovio game or something like that before things kicked off. I think if you look at King.com and Candy Crush was the 100th or the 88th game that they did. We are still very, very young in the space. Building a studio, and maybe Lex can say on this, if you build a studio in 1 year, do you expect them to ship, Lex?
No. The short answer is no. I mean, mobile dev cycles, they can be short, but you have to have everything set up already. I mean, the more games that you make, the faster it is to make subsequent games. But starting out, no. And I think you have to have a lot of iteration and experimentation. I remember even at Rovio Stockholm, y'all had the prototype factory, right?
Yeah.
That's how mobile is. I mean, there's a lot of like testing while you're running. I think if it compared to like my time in like console, like doing Halo and stuff, like everything is pre-planned ahead of time. All the numbers are crunched ahead of time, you know, because we're going to be doing, it's a 5-year commitment, right? But mobile, it's a little bit different. But like, I would ask Matthew, like, is Web3, do you feel like it's closer to like a mobile development cycle, like quick throwing out games quick too?
It should be, but it isn't, because the raises that people are making are not the kind of raise that you'd get a AAA game. So people can make like AA indie titles, but what's generally happening is the expectation from the people who fund these games was that the rest of the funding comes from the community, that the community loves this game, they buy the token goes up, everyone's happy, no one has to implement half the monetization, the token comes out, the VCs cash out. If everything went to plan, because everything is going up all the time, God knows why they thought this would work, but because everything is going up all the time, the studio raises enough for its runway, everyone's happy because the token's more valuable, the VCs get some of their money back at the start, and that would be the virtuous cycle of what was planned. Unfortunately, the market doesn't work like that. People got wise to it because the more games that came out there, as soon as there was any kind of gold rush, people started funding agencies, they started funding like more exchanges, and the prices for listing these things got higher. The prices for advertising them got higher, the market went down, and therefore the liquidity dried up. So no games could raise from the community successfully anymore. So we're in this weird kind of hinterland where basically everyone had a kind of mobile level budget. Some people are still trying to rack up massive games. But this is why we need a reset, and we're seeing this at the moment. A lot of studios are clearing out either for good reasons or bad reasons, and this kind of blue water is where I think the publisher meta comes in. Actually having a publisher to support these games and get them over the line, because that's what happens a lot in the mobile space. Plenty of publishers pick up games, and even in the sort of the indie AAA or semi-A space, you get a lot of publishers out there. So that's my take on why it's like that.
Bro, mic drop. I love that because it summarizes, like, we've been doing this at D-Lab Games for over 2 years now, right? And you pretty much hit the nail on the head. We actually came out with 3 games in development, right? Which is really proactive on our part, and a lot of funding, done both with traditional VCs and equity partners. And you've really hit the nail on the head. And the worst part is we had to pivot, right? So we went from, ideally 3, AAA type games, with the opportunity of being truly Web3, and then we pivoted to existing IPs that we have, including Boxing Stars X, which we had to pivot and then port it over to Telegram and to Kaya to really meet what's needed in the middle. But not many of these studios have that level of experience, runway, opportunity to do those things. But being part of having a CEO who was the former head at the CEO at Nexon, right, for MapleStory, and then having him translate to mobile, doing games in China, doing games in Korea. Like, you have to have the fortitude and the ability to persist and understand that that's what this space is about. And unfortunately, so many people, especially within the gaming community, and a lot of these hybrid people who are investors as well, it really kind of shakes things out. And to your point, this is kind of like the Great Reset, just the necessary sea change, because the previous existing models was a lot of vaporware, was a lot of opportunity to extract liquidity, make a ton of money from a few games and a few tokens, right? Because it really wasn't sustainable. And then everybody just jumped on that ship expecting the similar type returns. And then as everything paled in comparison and the market, adjusted, it just was one of those things that, as someone who's been building in 2 years, and then the team has been building even longer than that, it's so hard to illustrate and really share with people what it really takes behind the scenes to make things work. And I don't think a lot of those things are being talked about, right? I love, gamified. I love these things, but sometimes, unless it's people like you, Matt, who really show and highlight what, pulling back the curtain, this is so difficult to actually share. And this is something that we've had to continuously deal with because it's so problematic when you have people who came on early and they were promised one thing, and just for sustainability, rug. We just pivoted, and people just shit on you because it's like, oh, you didn't keep to the vision. But they don't realize if we didn't adapt and we didn't change and work with different partners and different, chains to get grants in terms of like creating real runway and actually start driving that revenue. And then it's like, hey, if I own the NFTs, then I should have the rev share. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. But what we can do is use your, NFT, actually, get value from it, give you a jump start or a head start over everyone else who has, to kind of buy into the play to win model, because obviously, the opportunity to advance further quicker to get into some of these what do you want to call it? Leaderboards, right? In terms of the competition, and then give back through rev share in those ways for people who are actually playing your games and who are actually spending money. Like, how do you convince these people to do these things in a way that makes sense? Because in Web3, people don't get it. But what I will say is having the opportunity to be an early partner with Kaya, you actually have real gamers from Japan, from Korea, who understand all of these things, because one, the adoption curve is so much higher and so much more sticky in terms of retention and people willing to invest, that they get it. And then you can actually start seeing that rev share come in, so we can actually support our gamers in a way that adds value. And it's so hard to like say this, to them, because before you can even finish the sentence, it's FUD. And it's conversations like this that matter, because we really do need to kind of come together in a way that really helps, simplify these things, right, in a ways that people can relate to, because otherwise it becomes so extractive and so pointless that we're just going to run to another cycle if we keep kind of, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So no, shout out to you for really laying a lot of this stuff in a way that, anyone can grab a hold and hopefully, learn from, because otherwise we're just going to keep doing these things and banging our head and expecting something different. But the reality is we have to adapt. And I love, again, what you're doing with Warpcast and having gamers in mind, because if we don't have distribution channels, if we don't have, existing revenue stream from gamers directly, the NFT side, the Web3 side, the on-chain side, it's going to just be bloated, right? And the only ones that are truly winning it, and I have to give a lot of credit to Jonah because he's highlighted it over and over again, is literally these gaming casinos. And those are the only ones that are really making money, because they making money off of the gambling, off of the speculation in ways that, that actually counts in Web3. But we have to bring in real gamers with real games and real product. And I love that point you said too, which is, the products are shitty. So what do you expect? And stop, take the time to do due diligence, and be more importantly, and be patient, because it takes time to build these things.
I mean, this is one of the things that I wanted to essentially push on, and that is we should stop caring about an individual product and start caring about a studio. Because if you're looking to invest in something, either as a VC or as a player or anything like that, you're investing in the team that shipped this. And this is why I think it's kind of critical that we start getting more teams building in-house. I know a lot of people outsource, and that's great. But I mean, maybe like you could give your opinion on this. I think 90%, if not more, of Web3 games are fully outsourced. So essentially just the exec team, the founders, and maybe the marketing team is kind of in situ or distributed. And then all of the dev is made by outsourcing shops in Vietnam, Ukraine, and other places. And I think maybe you could sort of speak to this on how that affects games.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that can be outsourced, but at the end of the day, you're letting go of some control. And there is, I mean, if we had one of our art directors here, I feel like even Shiraj or something, there is another aesthetic piece that you're going to be missing, even if they follow all your design documents, art documents, all that. There is just something that will be missing. And I think as a player, you can tell that. You can tell. You were just talking about the Mario Kart, the Mario Kart mobile game, right? I mean, that's an extreme example, but you can tell those things. And it's one of those subjective issues where if the heart of the company and the dev team is behind it, you're going to feel a certain way. And I know, like, my friends, we were big Blizzard fans way back in the day. I mean, we're talking Warcraft 2 online with the dial-up, that sort of thing. And they're not in the games industry, and they can tell and they complain. They're like, oh, modern Blizzard games are, we hate them. They just don't have the soul. And then they can't articulate why. And I think us in the gaming industry, we need to take a step back. And I think we need to ask people who don't know anything about it what they think. Because it's easy for us to go, oh, well, this design element is proven to be whatever. This aesthetic is proven to be whatever. But at the end of the day, I think sometimes we forget that we are doing it for the gamers. And it's interesting what you said about the Web3, where it's like, we want to cash in and cash out. That's called rugging, right? I think I'm learning. Is that a...
Yeah, no, it can be. It can be. It's like the VCs are the ones that do that. A rug traditionally is when the token or the NFT, the founders just bail. They literally take the money from the first raise and they disappear. They delete the Discord or they lock everything down and they gone. And that's essentially what happened to Zentoshi's project. Yeah, I don't know if you're still around, but yeah, bring us in. Tell us about what happened.
Nodrocks is a case that, I heard the last person very carefully, and I agree. And it's a great point for Nodrocks where there is no founding team and creators behind any vision. It's up to the people to decide, or the holders of those assets to decide about the faith of that project. And apply this in the game example. It's people who are unrelated to gaming, who have all these crazy ideas about this game. And I think if it's well curated and you just, pick the right ones, you can actually end up with something fresh, new, and actually fun, because the people who have no idea about games, they don't have all this metric in their head on how to make a game. And so they naturally, organically think about, why would you play this game? Well, it should be fun, or I'm doing this because I'm having fun, or I'm having all these ideas because it's fun, and that's why they are here. So I think that's what's happening with the Stand Rocks is, from non-experienced people, all these great ideas came together, and that's what attracted Jason and Matthew in the first place, I think.
Exactly, because one of the things is, I think Lex also hit it on the head when he was saying, like, us in games, we think about things in a particular way, if something's proven or not proven. But people coming from the outside, and this is why I love Web3 so much, we get to go back to the basics. We get to see people making the decisions, learning the hard way, doing this, and then coming up with something that I think is going to be truly special. I'm really bullish on the case for Web3 gaming. We're coming close to the end of the space. If you like what you hear, please follow all of the speakers up here, and please retweet and repost the room, like us, and we have got more exciting stuff coming. Next week's space is going to be, did Web2 devs kill Web3 gaming? Which is going to be a hot, spicy one. We're going to have lots of another stats panel for this, and you're all welcome up to take part in this. It's been a fantastic show. I'd love to just hand it around the room, and everyone can say their sayonaras, and Doug can give us the handsome newsreader readout. You're muted, Doug.
Great mind.
Oh, that's right. I don't even know how to use technology. I'm Doug Hype. I am just a dumb, handsome man. I don't know anything. Bob Bronson's the guy that does news and is refined and dignified. I just cause trouble and eat cake. But yeah, it's really good to hear from builders, devs, founders, people that have been in the business and stuff, and those kind of perspectives. And talk about interesting strategies, topics, and things. I also really like how you fudded other shows and trashed other people. That's a good sign. You know what I mean? Where you're like, oh yeah, these other shows are okay, but they kind of don't really, this or that. That's what we need more in Web3. Actually, we need more of that, where it's all like, oh, this other game, Raven's Quest, they have 1 million daily active viewers, but who's really into that? You know what I mean? Like that. We need a little.
Never fun. We just want everyone to win, Doug. That's exactly what we're here for.
Look, it's just in your nature, Matt, that you're better than everybody, and I support that.
And I support you, Doug. And that is the news. And we're definitely going to have some more fun stuff around with everyone. Like, we're a growing family. We're Warp. We've got many games coming up. And there's going to be some really exciting times. What do you think for your first time on the show, Lex, and your first foray into the Web3 world?
It went by quick. I learned some stuff. It was cool. If I want to leave like one just Web 2 sort of traditional gaming thought, is that the reliance on IP, I think, is definitely misused. Like, if you look at what Angry Birds has done and how it's evolved, we're talking about like the outsourcing. It's not the fact that there's a cute little bird that people love it. It's that sense of play. A really good designer set that up. And I think if we get really good designers like yourself who have done traditional gaming and understand gaming into Web3, then it's going to be unstoppable. So best of luck, and hit me up if you want a tester.
Always happy to grab people into the Warp family. And thank you so much for this space, everyone. Paul, have you got any last words? I can see you ghosting in and out there. Where's he gone?
I wasn't sure who you're referring to, but I'm more than happy to jump in. I just want to say thank you to you as well. Just because, again, there needs to be voices that really represent, to kind of highlight and showcase. And, when you're leaning into the next topic, I'll definitely have to come in next week, because that's going to be a banger too, because it's the same thing, right? I mean, I feel like I have to be mindful of what I share, just because I'm, under NDA about some of these things. But to your point, Web 2 devs and working in Web 3, it's not a match made in heaven. There's a lot of friction points. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that aren't being shared. And it's kind of crazy too, because it makes a lot of sense, to be fair, right? I think when you have on-chain components and pieces, and then you get this feedback loop too, it's like, people in the room are always saying, hey, I know best, right? And the reality is, no, you're building with a community, you're building with an audience, and having that feedback loop is what makes Web3 so beautiful. So, for me, my last take and things like that is, as you explore Web3 gaming, understand that everyone has a different purpose, everyone has a different mindset, and that, the game loops are what really connect people to the actual product. But it's also, being part of this community and, having the opportunity to partake in a way that is inaccessible, right? I can't just go to Activision and just tell them how I feel and watch something happen. You can do that in Web3. You can actually give a recommendation and, your peace of mind, and actually have it touch the game. So, for those who are still here, who are real believers in what Web3 gaming is, just know that your voice is heard, and that you have an opportunity to do something that you otherwise wouldn't have, and enjoy it, right? It's part of a ride, it's part of the experience. Just don't spend the money if you don't have it. And if you are looking for returns, be mindful that the market is just as volatile as anything else in crypto. So be patient and just enjoy the ride, because we're all here connecting and building relationships on top of making great games. So this is what we're here for. I'm all about it, and I can't wait to jump into next week's conversation as well.
Thank you so much for that. And as I see the Rovio logo flash up, it just reminds me of that whole point that Rovio actually is Finnish for fire. And they used to have their tagline as "Set the World Alight," and then there were some pretty severe forest fires that went all over Scandinavia, and they quickly changed that to "We Craft Joy." So just a little last secret tidbit for you guys, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Run the credits, guys. It's been fantastic. Looking forward to next week. It's going to be even more chaos, even more fun. Peace out, everyone.